Hey, my lovely patrons! How are you all doing today? I hope none of you have donated your life savings to a backyard prophet lately. Well, unless you accept Bitcoin, in which case, we need to talk. Welcome back to Spaghetti alla Paranormale, the show where superstition meets sarcasm and divine intervention get debunked with a side of spicy irony. Today's story? Oh boy, it's got it all. Bleeding statues, discount stigmata, apocalyptic prophecies, and financial advice straight from the Virgin herself. We're diving into the world of Gisella Cardia, Trevignano very own miracle vending machine.
It's a miracle!
But since we are in a restaurant after all, let's talk about the dish of the day. Coming straight from the tranquil shores of Lake Bracciano, grilled Caregone. Elegant, subtle, delicious. One of the most typical dishes from Trevignano Romano and accompanied by a huge glass of white wine, aged perfectly thanks to the divine claims of our Gisella over here. Miracle number 72, brought to you by Heinz Ketchup. A white wine that gets perfectly in contrast with the dish itself, because where Caregone is fresh and refined, this wine, this story is, well, overcooked nonsense served with a side of guilt tripping.
What you did on that dish is inappropriate and ultimately kind of disgusting.
So patrons, light a skeptical candle, grab your favorite rosary of reason and prepare yourself for one of Italy's most bizarre miracle sagas. It's time to talk about Gizella Cardia, the woman, the myth, the GoFundMe. Before she became a visionary, before the crowds, the tears, and the prophecies, she was Maria Giuseppa Scarpulla. Born in Sicily, she led a quiet, ordinary life far from the spotlight. That is, until something changed. Along with her husband, Gianni, she moved to the peaceful town of Trevignano Romano by the shores of Lake Bracciano, a picturesque place where life is simple and faith runs deep. It was here, in these serene settings, that Gisella's story truly began. But the real spark? That happened far away, from a trip that would change everything. In 2016, Gisella and Gianni traveled to Medjugorje, a town in Bosnia-Herzegovina known worldwide for its alleged Marian apparitions. Since 1981, the town has attracted millions of believers hoping to experience something divine. For Gisella, it wasn't just a pilgrimage, it was a revelation. She would later claim that during this journey, the Virgin Mary spoke to her, a private vision, a personal calling, one that set her on a new and radical spiritual path. When she returned home, she was no longer Maria Giuseppa. She became Gisella, and with this new name came a new mission to spread the Virgin's message to the world. Not long after returning from Medjugorje, Gisella reported her first apparition. According to her, the Virgin Mary began appearing in her own backyard regularly, and the third day of each month. These were not fleeting visions. They came with messages written by Gisella in notebooks filled with divine warnings, spiritual advice, and predictions for the future. Of course, word spread quickly. What started as a private devotion became a public phenomenon. The faithful came first by dozens, then by hundreds. Some came out of curiosity, others came out of desperation. All were drawn by the hope that this quiet woman from Trevignano had been chosen by the Virgin herself. Over time, Gisella's small garden became a place of monthly pilgrimage. She stood at the center, eyes closed, hands joined, receiving messages from the sky, while others listened in prayerful silence. From the outside, it looked spontaneous, organic, but the devotion around her began to crystallize into something more structured, a movement, a cult.
C'è il rischio di passare da fedele a credulona?
No.
Sicuro?
Sì. Io non vengo lì. Io ho scelto questo posto per dare un messaggio a noi. Anzi,
ma lei verrebbe comunque.
dicendo male di questa persona ci mettiamo contro Dio.
Ma il fatto è che Gisella, se è riuscita a portare tanta gente qui, ha un merito, perché in effetti è riuscita a portare qui tanta gente a pregare, perché poi qui veniamo a pregare, mica per fare baldori.
The message became more frequent, their tone urgent, something apocalyptic. They spoke of repentance, suffering, and the need of prepare of what was coming. And with every message came new believers. Some claimed miracles, healings, conversions, signs in the sky. The gatherings grew, so did the donations, all to support the spreading of the Virgin's messages. And something else. That's when the statue appeared. One of the most iconic elements of Gisella's story is the statue. Purchased during her visit to Medjugorje, it was said to be no ordinary figurine. Shortly after being placed in the garden, the statue began to cry. Not tears of water, but tears of blood. At least according to Gisella and her growing number of followers. The faithful saw this as a divine sign, another confirmation that Gisella had been chosen and that the Virgin Mary was truly present in Trevignano Romano. As the word spread, the monthly gatherings became larger, more emotional. People reported feeling the presence of Mary. Others claimed to see the sun pulsate or spin during prayers. Reports of miracles began to multiply. Crosses that bled, hands that healed, rosaries that changed color. For many, the backyard of Gisella's home had become sacred ground. But perhaps the most influential were the messages themselves. Written in Gisella's handwriting, they warned of dark times ahead. War, disease, famine, and punishment for a sinful world. Some read like personal guidance, others like coded prophecy. The tone was often dire, urging people to return to prayer, to convert, and to prepare, not just spiritually but physically. In several messages, the Virgin allegedly encouraged stockpiling food and supplies, an heavenly prepper's guide to the end of times. Fantastic. Through it all, Gisella remained at the center, quiet, devout, unwavering. To her followers, she was not just a messenger, she was proof that miracles still walked among us. So, is it all true? Well, let's just say if somebody's still convinced after this next part, you might want to check your holy water for hallucinogen. And now, dear patrons, let's debunk the whole thing.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Ah yes, the stigmata, mysterious wounds appearing on Gisella's hands during times of deep prayer. A sure sign of divine favor or possibly very sharp manicure tools.
Look! Just a flesh wound.
These marks would show up and then conveniently disappear, almost like they were never really there to begin with.
Fascinating.
Independent medical analysis, you would say. Of course not, because who needs science when you have a faith and an excellent foundation concealer, or more like a standard common marker. Next up on our tour of totally believable miracles, the crying statue. That's right, Gisella's Virgin Mary statue allegedly wept tears of blood. So, the blood was tested, and guess what? Human blood. Even better, the DNA matched Gizella herself. Plot twist? Not really.
Trace the call. It's coming from inside the house. You hear me? It's coming from inside the house.
Apparently, the Virgin Mary's tears were just a little, too on brand. Heavenly hemoglobin, now with more sanctity! Because nothing says divine intervention like forensic evidence linking your miracle to a nearby vein.
It's all bollocks, isn't it?
Next on the list, Gisella's messages. Gisella claimed to receive monthly messages from the Virgin Mary, and spoiler alert, they weren't exactly cheerful. Well, not exactly a spoiler alert, I already talked about this. Damn it. Anyway, to recap, war, disease, famine, economic collapse.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
You name it, Mary predicted it. Or rather, Gisella's version of Mary, kind of like a holy Twitter feed but with worse grammar.
Breaking news! Apocalypse again!
Run! Everybody run! Monster!
Now here's the twist. None of these predictions actually came true, but hey, when you are vague enough, anything sounds prophetic. You will face challenges. Maybe. Eventually. One message even told people to prepare by stockpiling food and candles, because nothing says eternal salvation like a Costco run. But fear not, for Gisella wasn't just spreading the word of God. She was also collecting a little something for her trouble. She and her husband ran a religious association that took donations. You know, to build a sanctuary, for prayers, and possibly a gift shop. A similar methodology we have seen in Lourdes and Medjugorje as well. They're doing the same thing.
Shut up and take my money!
Faith-based merch, cash envelopes, even guided pilgrimage. It's like the Vatican meets Wish.com. And while her followers believed they were funding salvation, they may have just been financing a backyard full of props and really nice espresso machines. But how this story ended? Is she still running her business or something happened? Eventually, even Italian authorities started to raise an eyebrow. Gisella and her husband were investigated for aggravated fraud, which, let's be honest, sounds way fancier in Italian. Mamma mia, it's a fraud! In fact, multiple ex-followers came forward claiming they had been manipulated emotionally and financially. Turns out, when your statue cries your own blood, people start asking questions. But wait, there is more. Meanwhile, the Catholic Church did what it does best when things get too weird. They distance themselves like a dad at a boy band concert.
Oh, okay.
The Bishop of Civita Castellana officially declared that those apparitions were not of supernatural origins. Translation: nope. Art? Nope. Bye-bye, Gisella. You're on your own. I'm out. Bye-bye. And Gisella's reaction? She didn't take it well. But hey, when even the Vatican ghosts you, maybe it's time to retire the miracle machine. And since then, attendance has dropped. Donations? Not quite overflowing anymore. The faithful, some still hang on, others not so much. But like all good cult addition movements, there's always a loyal core.
A me non me ne frega del vescovo, io ho la fede nella Madonna e basta.
Vescovo ha detto, ha detto di non venire, poi ci venite. Lei devi mettere le mani addosso.
Permesso? Ma tu ce l'hai permesso?
Clinging to the dream and to those prepaid candle bundles. Basically, Gisella kept going and going and going. Did she give up? No, of course not. Even the Vatican itself said either you stop it or you get excommunicated. Her answer was a hard no, and she went as far to claim that her situation was the same as Bernadette Soubirous, the prophet of Lourdes. Did she win? Did she put up a good fight? No, of course not. She was excommunicated right after. So, my dear patrons, was it all divine intervention or just a particularly dramatic performance piece with a good revenue stream? Well, if it bleeds like a scam, sweats like a scam, and ask for your bank detail like a scam, well, you do the math. And coming up next on Miracles and Manipulations, a toaster that burned an image of Saint Francis, or maybe just a grilled cheese. Well, what a ride. That's it for today's Heavenly Special, by the way. We took a nice long look at a woman who allegedly spoke to the Virgin Mary, and possibly also to her accountant. Our dish of the day, fish a la mystique. It smells holy, but if you cut into it, turns out it's just fish and drama, nothing more.
It's raw, Melissa!
Yes, chef.
It's raw, come on!
Remember, folks, just because someone cries blood doesn't mean they are a saint. It could just mean they skipped med school. If you enjoyed this divine disaster, bless the algorithm by liking, subscribing, and maybe lighting a virtual candle for my sanity. And, of course, a sacred shout out to all my patrons. Without you, I'd be filming this in a real church, which might have actually been hilarious. In the end, the case of Gisella Cardia isn't just about bleeding statues of failed prophecies. It's a reminder of how easily beliefs can be shaped, guided, and sometimes exploited. For many, faith offers comfort and purpose, but when it's manipulated by those seeking power or profit, it becomes a tool for control, not connection. Alright, that's enough preaching for today. Your fish is getting cold. Once again, thank you, my wonderful patrons, for keeping this absurd journey going. You find the sauce, you found the sarcasm. As always, stay skeptical, stay saucy, and if a statue ever cries in your living room, maybe call a plumber before a prophet. And of course, I see you all the next time. Ciao!